Fort Benning has undergone many changes, from infantry to cavalry to armor. This post has been home to many soldiers and their families. But as Fort Benning has evolved, do we remember its humble beginnings? Melissa Bell brings us the story and legacy of Camp Benning.
Fort Benning has not always been Fort Benning. In fact, it was originally called Camp Benning and not meant to last for very long, since it meant only to serve a purpose for World War I.
Fort Benning was established on the east side of Columbus, Georgia in 1918 as a result of World War I. It had moved here from originally Monterey, California to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and in 1918 Fort Sill became too crowded as a result of expansion for World War I. So the infantry was looking for a place to separate from the artillery school and find its own home. And after looking around, they decided on Columbus, Georgia.
Camp Benning was originally established on East Macon Road in October of 1918 and named after a local hero of the Confederate Army, General Henry Lewis Benning. It was quickly decided that the area was too close to town and soon moved south to where we see it today.
When Camp Benning was first established and even moved in 1919, it was like living in the Wild West. It was dirty, muddy. There were no paved streets around Camp Benning. Most of the soldiers lived in tents, and sometimes the wooden floor. As the soldiers and their families began to move to Camp Benning, later Fort Benning, they often lived in the same tents that the soldiers did for a while. Some soldiers built their own quarters as an improvement, so many of the families were actually being raised in tar paper shacks. But it was a very temporary camp until it became Fort Benning in 1922.
During World War I, there was a massive influx of soldiers. As a result, the infantry needed leaders, and they had to be trained for combat. Camp Benning became a place of learning, serving lieutenants and captains as they trained in leadership and infantry skills.
They had to learn a lot of very difficult techniques on machine guns, poison gas, camouflage, and a lot of other things. And what we have seen over the years as the United States Army has looked at new technology or adopted it, it's been up to Fort Benning and its staff to figure out how to properly use it, write the manual for it, and figure out how to train soldiers on how to most effectively use it.
It was in 1922 that Camp Benning became a permanent post and renamed Fort Benning, flipping the bayonet on the infantry school symbol to what we see today. Fort Benning has been effective in training, from infantry to a vast array of airborne troops, rangers, snipers, and of course now strikers, tanks, and many more. From modest beginnings, it has become a world-renowned post of leadership, development, and combined arms training. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.